We teach a child to creep when he should be running. Textbooks and worksheets were designed by educators to get the maximum number of students through a fairly limited number of school subjects. It is believed that by giving children small, sequential, easy to follow bits, all children can learn. So this same boring process has been repeated year after year for generations. Regarding this, Louis L'Amour said, acquiring an education has many aspects, of which school is only one. And the present approach is, I believe, the wrong one. Our methods of instruction do much to hamper a child in learning. Our approach is pedestrian. We teach a child to creep when he should be running. Education becomes a task rather than excitement. Well, I want to change all of that. I think Louis L'Amour was right. It's time to bring big, bold excitement into education. And that's what I've been doing for over 20 years. In this video, you'll learn how to implement long-term projects with your own children and with your students, how to turn curiosity into mastery. These are the tools that I use to bring excitement into learning experience. One of them is the 6-week projects. This is how you can help your students go deep into a subject to create amazing things and to present what they know. So long-term projects help students move beyond read, regurgitate, regret, and into real learning, giving the sense of accomplishment to the children. See, children need opportunities to do big things. Most schoolwork asks the child to do small things, fill in the blank, circle the answer, copy the definition, answer the question at the end of the chapter, or complete this worksheet. If children are only ever allowed or asked to do small, simple things, they may start to believe that small, simple things are all they can do. Projects change that. Projects tell a child you are capable of doing something big. And when they're done, the child can stand back and say, I did that. It's a sense of accomplishment and it's powerful. So projects are not just cute or fun activities. They are one of the best ways to help children experience deeper learning. Worksheets may satisfy a checklist, but they often do not satisfy the learner. They are usually too static and too shallow to create the kind of rich, memorable learning that children actually crave. Projects allow children to apply information to real life experiences. So they get to practice critical thinking, collaboration, communication, presentation, time management, adaptability, creativity, autonomy. These are the skills that kids need today more than ever now that AI is changing the career landscape. Plus, kids can gain confidence while they develop mastery in a topic and become lifelong learners. Projects really help the authentic learning come to life. So I talked previously about the T-shaped student. The weekly topics and activities give the students breadth. Long-term projects give students depth. A child may be introduced to many topics throughout the year, but when they spend 6 weeks researching, creating, and presenting one topic, they begin to experience mastery. It helps students discover talents, interests, strengths, and possible future pathways even. Before I show you exactly how to do a 6-week project, I want you to know that there are a variety of ways that authentic learners do participate in projects in many different ways. For example, in workshop class, the children are provided these short, high-interest projects that they do with their friends in class. And with fireworks, this is like homework, but better at lighting the fires of learning. They are designed to develop a child's natural curiosity and inspire them to want to know more and to do more. These are smaller projects that can take 5 minutes or much longer, but the children are allowed to continue working on them for as long as they like. It's unlimited. And of course, along those same lines are informal projects. These are projects that happen naturally because a child is curious. They happen when children participate in rec time. A child might build the coolest car out of Legos or dig a hole in the backyard or create a pretend restaurant or write a story. And there is no limit to the types of projects that kids might work on and when they are given the opportunity. These projects could be super, super short, just a couple minutes, or it could be years before a child's curiosity is satisfied and they call their project done. These projects are all theirs and they get to decide all the terms of their own informal projects. And as you know, even when there is no set outcome, the child is still learning great things. So these long-term projects are the ones I'm going to focus on today. These are larger teacher-led or parent-assisted projects that take several weeks, a semester, a full school year, or even longer. Today, I'm focusing on the 6-week project structure. I have learned that doing it project for just 1 month, a large project for 1 month, it doesn't feel quite like enough. It feels like you're just hitting your stride and then you have to present. It's too short. 2 months feel too long. It feels like it drags on and students start to lose interest. But a 6-week project tends to be the sweet spot. And this is a method I've used for more than 25 years for both individual students and groups of students. It's not the only way to do projects with your kids. And it may not be the perfect process for every child or every class, but this is a reliable structure you can use to help you get started. There are 4 elements or parts to a 6-week project. The first is research. The second is a written report. The third is a display. And the fourth is an oral report. In each of these elements, the structure stays the same for all ages, but expectations change for each child. It's adaptable, and you want to adapt it for each of your children, each of your groups of children. I typically spend only 1 hour a week doing these larger projects. There's so much we want to do in a single week that long-term projects, I really have devoted primarily 1 hour a week to working on these projects, typically on perhaps after a workshop, at the end of a workshop day, or a fireworks day, or on Wednesday after an outing. However you want to fit it into your schedule, you only need to work on it for 1 hour a week. So also, besides that 1 hour in class, children will often spend some of their rec time working on these projects because they have a lot of curiosity, they get deep into research, or they enjoy working on their display. So I'm going to go through a week by week structure of preparing for the project. I'll go through each of these individually. As I show you the process, you might pick up on the fact that these projects usually span several school subjects, as well as touch on many subjects that might never be covered in school. So the first week is when you're going to help the children choose a topic, and you're going to discuss it with them. You're going to plan a display, and you're going to perhaps start on research. So encourage the children to choose a topic that relates to the current theme or the component. For example, component 4 of our STEAM world theme is Rails, Frontiers, and Machines in America. Some of the topics that would be a good fit, it might seem out of bounds, but some of them from inspired by the topics in those 6 weeks, some of the topics that children might want to choose for their projects might be oceans, freedom of religion, chaparral, Wild West, trains, moose, sourdough bread, Golden Gate Bridge, or they might want to study a local Native American tribe. All of these fit within the component, but it gives some boundaries. It's actually helpful to give boundaries when you're trying to choose a topic. If the entire world is at your disposal, it makes it harder for the children to choose a topic. So then sometimes children choose topics that are fun, but not particularly academically rich. For example, I had students who want to do a report on Minecraft, which might be fine for a first report, especially if the goal is simply to practice the process. But often you can redirect the topic while still honoring the children's interest. For example, I once helped a class start a project, and in the first week, I had all the students submit ideas for topics that they were interested in doing the project on. So everything's on the board. I had all of them vote to select the topic. And the thing that got the most votes was Minecraft. The topic that received the second most votes was Einstein. As the teacher in the room, I didn't think that Minecraft would be a great topic, but I suggested that we make Einstein the topic and have them use Minecraft to create their display, and they loved the idea. So you can balance student interest with academic depth. But of course, you still want them to be excited about the topic. Make sure that that's where you stay. So after you choose a topic, you can ask the students what they already know, and you can write these things on the board. These are usually things that they like about the topic, the reasons why they chose it. So you can ask them, what do you like about this topic? These are facts about the topic that you can write down on the board, things that they already know. And what do they want to know? You write these things on the board. Also, if they don't know what they don't know, you can go ahead and offer some questions to help them get started. Write these on the board. So one time, one of my teachers had a class that wanted to do their project on slime, and they were studying Leonardo da Vinci at the time. And these two things are not a great match. They decided that as a scientist, Leonardo would have loved to study, learn about, and experiment with polymers or slime, right? So they needed to do a little research on Leonardo and polymers, and they decided to make a different kind of slime each week. But in the first week, they needed to research the various types of slime and to make a list of materials that they needed to collect to get started next week. So they were already doing research from choosing the topic. Also, in the first week, you need to choose a display. The display can really be anything. It's something they're going to show, though. Something, it doesn't even have to be tangible. It's something that is showed. Like, for example, if it's a dramatization, if the children are going to put on a play, then it's still something to show, but it's not something that you necessarily touch. They can create a board game that they play with everyone. It can be an invention that they share. It can be in a painting that they created. It could be a PowerPoint presentation. It could be a website that they've built. And of course, students can invent something completely different. The opportunities really are endless. Brainstorm with the children, help them think outside the poster board, and come up with some fun things that they can do to present the things that they are excited to share information on. That once the students have decided what they will do for their display, what materials they might need to complete their projects, and then the students can volunteer to bring those things from home, perhaps. And if you have time in class this week, you can go ahead and start researching. At the very least, you can discuss the types of research you will need to do. After making all the plans, the students are often excited to jump right into research and study. Encourage them to start researching the top on their own, even at home. They can bring their findings into class next week. Week 2 is for gathering information, and it can be just as important as a finished project. I give the students some interesting resources. I tell them to save the information that they find is most interesting. The research does not need to be exhaustive. It just needs to be meaningful. They can use the internet, and I recommend that students use at least 2 other resources besides internet. They can interview authorities, they can read books, they can watch videos, they can have family discussions, they can visit places connected to the topic, they can search the internet, they can perform experiments, they can conduct surveys, they can observe the real objects. The research records do not need to be formal. Okay, when they start collecting the information, they can just print things that are interesting, or they can put notes in a notebook. They can collect brochures from places they visit. They can underline or bookmark things in books. They can take pictures of things. They can make sketches. All of these things are valid ways to collect information. The goal is to collect enough information for students to have familiarity with the topic and to remember the information that they like, right? So you can have them write, or you can write it down for them. These examples right here, we had a variety of abilities of children, And some of these, we had to tell them letter for letter how to write. And there were some children who just could write a couple things, but they really more wanted to express themselves. And then in which case they were able to dictate to me. I recognized my handwriting and in one of these images, they dictated to me to something that they found was interesting. Molecules are so small that if germs could see, they wouldn't be able to see them. So germs can't see molecules because molecules are too. Anyway, you get the idea. So this week is also when you start working on the display if you haven't already, because it can take weeks to complete the display. So it's a good idea to get started right away. Week 3 is when students begin to organize the information they collected into a written report. I like to do a mind map with the students. So you write the topic of the project in the center of the whiteboard. And then as the children share with me the information that they collected, we break it down into larger categories. For Einstein, we thought we'd have 4 categories. We got personal, we have some facts, we have some science and some warfare. And then we put below those main sections some facts that go into those sections. As we were doing this, we realized that warfare isn't really its own. There wasn't enough information. It ended up going under the category of science. At this point, this is when the students see for the first time how all of their information can connect together. And sometimes the mind map will reveal places that might require some follow-up research, like, well, where was he born, or whatever information that you want to fill in to make a richer, more complete report. So once you have the mind map finished, then we go straight from there to labeling the sections of the mind map. First, the larger categories. So you'll see on here, I have personal, I put the Roman numeral 1, science, we put 2, and facts, we put 3. These are this is the order in which we're going to present the information. And then below them, the facts that go like in the personal area, we labeled them A, B, and C for the order in which that we would be presenting those, or they would be presenting them. So, and then from there, you can have the students write an outline. If your students are younger, you may want to write the outline yourself. If you're working with older students, each student can copy the information from the mind map into a standard outline format. Depending on the time you have, you may need to do this part next week if you're running out short in time. But because you also need to work on the display this week, right? So here's an outline of the slime project. It looks like they skipped the mind map and just went straight to dumping all the facts that they came up with onto the whiteboard. And then from there, we put the information into an order that they would present it in. So, and then of course, in this week, students are continuing to work on their display. On week 4, you're going to write the rough draft. You're going to take the outline and you're going to turn it into a rough draft. So using the outline as a guide, the students now write the first draft of the report. For younger students, the adult can take dictation, modeling writing for them as you do. Or you could do it on a writing board, you could do it on paper. For older students, the adult can help with structure, transitions, and clarity. And this can be written in a Google Doc or on paper. This that's showing right here, this is for the slime project. And the teacher took pictures of each of the students' written information and then copied and pasted those into one Google Doc. So that was just what makes sense for them. And each of the students are going to be presenting their own parts of the project. So the rough draft does not need to be perfect, but don't skip this step because it causes the information to pass through the mind again. Students have to select, organize, explain, and repeat what they have learned. And that makes learning be remembered for longer. And of course, in this week, they're going to continue working on the display, whatever the display is. These kids were making some big thing out of boxes. I don't even know what they were working on in this class. So week 5 is for completing the project. You're going to write the final draft. And you're going to go through that rough draft with the students. And rather than simply correcting the writing for them, you're going to go through it with them and help them improve it. You're going to point out any spelling errors, punctuation, some maybe organizational things, maybe some missing information or unclear sentences, and maybe even some places where some more detail would help clarify things. But as you're helping them go through their rough draft, you can also share why you recommend these changes, share grammar rules and so forth, so that they are also learning from their own, to improve their own work and learning through that process. The final report can be handwritten or it can be typed. And then have the students finish their display this week. And to make sure that it's ready for the presentation, this might be painting, labeling, assembling, practicing a demonstration, finishing the slides, organizing materials, whatever they need to do to be ready for next week. And also, if you have the time, have the children practice their oral report. And this report can vary. How the children give their oral report can vary depending on their child's readiness or interests or abilities, so forth. They might just plain show and describe the display that they created. They can use the outline as a prompt for the presentation. They can recite a memorized report. They can read a written report, or they can give a demonstration. And what I recommend also that you give some time for the students to answer some questions from the audience. That actually has been really enlightening, the questions that the audience has asked, and then the things that the children then impromptu share because they have gotten into this topic for the last 6 weeks. So the oral report should stretch the child, but not crush the child. It's something that empowers them, right? You can spend some time this week on week 5 discussing and preparing decorations, refreshments, and the students can work on invitations to invite their family and friends to the presentation next week. So week 6 is presentation week. You can do one final practice of their oral report. If you have time before the guests arrive, you can have the students help you decorate, prepare refreshments, and polish things off. These presentations can be done in conjunction with the celebrations at the end of each of the workshop 6-week components. These celebrations can take many forms depending on the types of celebrations the students have prepared. So there might be a gallery walk, a science fair, demonstrations, or however you want to go with that. There's no one set way to have the celebration or the presentations. This is the child's opportunity to show off what they know and what they've created, and to celebrate the things that they are proud of. I want to share with you some of the presentations that kids have done with us over the years. This young kid, it was almost just like a worksheet type thing that he filled out. You can see the pride in their eyes. They light up. Older kids can do more complex things, more independent things. And again, it's a variety of things that they're sharing, and look at you just see the smiles on their faces. They love it. They enjoy it. They get into it, even when they're being serious about it. All right. So, and I wanted to share one time. Oh, another display. Yeah. The display can be any any variety of things. These are screenshots from the Minecraft and Einstein report. So one of the kids built a profile of Einstein, one of the kids built a picture of a nuclear bomb, and one of the kids exploded it. They had a great time, but it was fun too because they actually needed to explode it more than once to catch some good screenshots of the explosion. So they had a great time playing with Minecraft and discussing a nuclear bomb. So one time, one of my own children wanted to do a report on basketball. It was like the cool thing that all the kids were into, and to learn how to play basketball and to teach how to play basketball for the report and demonstration. And so our family went to the local school, and we all learned basketball, and we played a little 2-on-2. And it was a lot of fun. And for our refreshments that time, we had some Gatorade, and it was just a really memorable, fun experience. And it was, not your typical poster board type of report. So the celebration matters because it gives students a reason to finish strong. I have seen students who end up working harder than was expected just because they knew that they were going to be showing off for their friends. And also, presenting helps the students experience the joy of accomplishment. At some time after the celebration, when you're back in class, you might want to hold a discussion with the students about the project they completed and how they felt, how it went, what did they enjoy, what did their parents say, and if they were going to do it again, what would they do differently? But be careful that you don't make it feel like they did a bad job in any way. You're still going to be encouraging, and everything that, draw out everything they liked about the experience as well as the things they didn't, and discuss the ways in which you are confident in their abilities. Children need these chances to succeed for real. So, and your role is of producer, director, not project owner. The parents, we facilitate the projects, but we don't do everything for them, right? We provide structure, resources, encouragement, direction, and a timeline. There is an end time that they need to be done by with these projects. You can help your students find websites, read books. You can take dictation from them. You can help them filter information. You can help them organize their thoughts. You can help them find more details. You can help them edit their written report. You can take them places where they can gather more information. You can help them gather supplies. You can help them connect all the pieces together, see those connections, and you can help them prepare their oral report. These are all great ways that you can help them, but still, you're not taking over. If you think you have an idea, you can share it. But if the child doesn't want it, you let it go. It needs to be their decision. The projects belong to the students. If you do the project for the child may end up with a finished project, but lose the sense of accomplishment. Worse than that, if all the adults in her life finish her projects for her, she might come to believe that her ideas, her work, and her efforts are not good enough. And these are dangerous grounds. This is not what we're going for. The goal is not a perfect display or report. The goal is growth, learning, confidence, and ownership. You're going to help enough for the child to succeed, but not so much that the success is no longer theirs. Okay. So projects give children the opportunity to succeed, but they also require the possibility of failure. And that's not a problem. It's part of the learning experience. Let the students make as many decisions as they can. Let them try ideas. And even when you believe they won't work, let them experience the natural consequences of waiting too long, or choosing weak materials, of forgetting a detail, or realizing the first plan was just way too complicated or out there and it's just not realistic. Of course, we guide them, we support them, we keep them from a complete disaster when necessary, like so nobody gets hurt, right? But we don't rob them of ownership. Children need opportunities to accomplish things of their own making. If they're running out of time, help them think of ideas that they can do with the time that they are given. But they need to be able to, at the end of the whole thing, be able to stand back and say, I did that, right? And that's a feeling you can't give them. They have to earn it. A child learns more from an imperfect project that they owned than a perfect project that an adult took over. Okay. So be careful. Don't take over. Don't do it for them. So the same process that I described can be done for both individual and group projects. But so I like individual projects because they help students follow their own personal interests and to develop independence. And it's a great value in having students complete individual projects, but it isn't always practical to do in a classroom settings. Group projects help students collaborate, and they can create something more compelling perhaps than one child would do on their own. They also practice communication, compromise, leadership, responsibility, and shared problem solving. For group projects, adults might help to divide responsibilities and like maybe have each student work on a different aspect of the topic, or divide the display into smaller projects that each child can work on independently before bringing it all together. But the group should still understand the whole project, not just their individual part of the project. I also want to point out that there is no rubric or set outcome for these projects. You really do need to allow the students to decide what done looks like for them. I've created a project booklet that can help you get started, and I'll upload it, a link to it in down below the video. So this isn't just another fun assignment. This is when learning is fun, memorable, and meaningful. It's a journey. Along the way, they build knowledge, confidence, creativity, responsibility, and a sense of accomplishment. The process of creating a project is just as important of a learning experiences as was learned through the content of the project itself. So step outside the comfort and convenience of worksheet. Give children the chance to do real work. Give them time to go deep. Give them support without taking over. Give them a reason to present and celebrate what they've done. And watch what happens when students discover that they can do big things. It's amazing, and you're going to love it. Okay, you got this. Share in the comments the projects that you've worked on with your kids, whether your own children or those in your classes. In the next video, I'll show you more about celebrations, how-tos, and tips. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.